Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
We're headed to the Court of Appeal. On behalf of Chris Scott and the Whistle Stop, we filed an application for permission to appeal the troublesome procedural decision handed down earlier this month. Now, that prevented us from making submissions to strike the Alberta Health Services injunction order due to a denial of fundamental justice. Saddle up, hold on. This is going to be an interesting ride.
I've got an important update to bring you in the story of the Whistle Stop Cafe and the owner of the Whistle Stop Cafe, Chris Scott. Now, for those of you who don't know, way back in January, Chris Scott opened his small town diner in Mirror, Alberta, population just over 500, in defiance of the lockdown restrictions on sit-down dine-in services here in Alberta. Now, the Whistle Stop Cafe is just not a little tiny lunch stop. It's also a gas station and a convenience store and a campground. It's your one-stop shop for everything you need in Mirror, Alberta, with the closest convenience store about 20 kilometers away. So when Chris made his act of rebellion against the government restrictions on his little business, the majority of the town, outside of one of his competitors, welcomed his actions with open arms. The place was packed all the time. I know, I was there. But Alberta Health Services and the local RCMP put Chris under immediate surveillance and harassment. They ticketed him, they issued him closure notices and summonses, and they even got a court order against him. Rebel News and Rebel News viewers, however, stepped up, and we all helped Chris by putting him together with the incredible Chad Williamson from Williamson Law to fight Chris's lockdown infractions in court at no cost to Chris. We did this all through fightthefines.com, which is our civil liberties project supported by the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund. We fight lockdown tickets. We don't pay them. We're trying to teach the government a lesson here. Now, Chris, through his steely-eyed convictions, was able to drag the government kicking and screaming to the decision to finally allow restaurants to reopen. But that only lasted for so long, and Alberta was plunged back into a third lockdown. The police and Alberta Health Services then came and chained the doors on Chris's restaurant, gas station, convenience store, and the campground. What happened was collective punishment for the entire community of Mirror because the government ostensibly cut them off from their supplies. Then the sneaky weirdos at Alberta Health Services went and got a secret court order against Chris without telling Chris's lawyer about the legal action against him. That order was granted, restraining Chris under threat of jail from exercising his charter rights to protest, organize a protest, or promote a protest against the lockdown. But Chris held a 1,500-person protest anyway and was subsequently arrested the night of the protest. And he was held in jail for 3 days. His crime? Protesting the lockdown here in Alberta. But we don't have secret courts, and we don't get secret court orders in this province, and we don't deny people the ability to be represented by lawyers by failing to inform the judge who signed off on the order that Chris had a lawyer for months. But that is exactly what Alberta Health Services did, and now they're going to have to answer to it in the Alberta Court of Appeal. Now, here's Chad Williamson with an update about what he's going to do to put a stop to the sneaky, conniving behavior of Alberta Health Services and their attacks on the civil liberties of Albertans and their outright mockery that these out-of-control bureaucrats have made of the presupposed fairness of our judicial system here in Alberta. Take a listen to Chad.
We're headed to the Court of Appeal. On behalf of Chris Scott and the Whistle Stop, we filed an application for permission to appeal the troublesome procedural decision handed down earlier this month. Now, that prevented us from making submissions to strike the Alberta Health Services injunction order due to a denial of fundamental justice. If you remember, Alberta Health Services got an injunction against Chris and everyone else in Alberta for that matter in court alone, without a lawyer there representing not only Chris, who is a named respondent in the action, but also without any other lawyer there whatsoever representing anybody other than Alberta Health Services. Chris has been denied procedural fairness and has now been prejudiced 3 times as a result. One, when Alberta Health Services failed to notify not only his lawyer that they were going to court to get an injunction against him, and then also failed to notify the court that he had a lawyer when AHS was making their submissions. But two, when the court refused to essentially hear what we call our Gunther application to strike the order on procedural grounds. And then a third time, when Chris was subjected to contempt proceedings prior to having any opportunity to be heard on the aforementioned procedural matters whatsoever. And we think that this is troublesome. We're asking the Court of Appeal to hear our submissions on whether these Gunther applications need to be heard right when they're made, not months down the road after prejudice has occurred, but right when the application is made. Justice delayed is justice denied. The request to appeal is in the interest of justice, and it has presidential value, and it concerns an infringement upon a fundamental precept of justice. This application is scheduled to be heard on June 30th. We're forging ahead in the main action as well. We've confirmed a date to cross-examine one of the Alberta Health Service affiants in July and expect to yield significant results there. But as expected, Alberta Health Services is putting up roadblocks to our demands to cross-examine the Chief Medical Officer. Now, we've given them a deadline to provide availability, and if they default on the deadline, we have a couple of tools in our tool belt to seek to compel her cross-examination. Saddle up, hold on. This is going to be an interesting ride.
Do you know what? After hearing from Chad, I get why Alberta Health Services lawyers didn't want to be arguing against him in court. No wonder they didn't tell the judge Chris had a lawyer. Now, if the government is not going to follow the rules of procedure in the Alberta court system, maybe they need to be reminded by a judge. And if you'd like to help us do that, help Chris and Chad teach the out-of-control health bureaucracy in this province that they should not be denying victims of their overreach the right to be represented by their lawyers, please donate today at fightthefines.com, and all donations there now qualify for a charitable tax receipt through the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund. And let me say to everyone who has gotten us this far, as we help the little guy stand up to the government, thank you. We could not have done any of this without you. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. If you'd like to help us help Chris Scott and the approximately 1,200 other people, pastors, and businesses that we are helping fight their lockdown infractions in court at no cost to them, please donate today at fightthefines.com, and all donations there now qualify for a charitable tax receipt through the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund.